I thought I had more time before he came back, just a few more minutes of reckless pleasure, but when I heard the front door creak open, I knew everything I'd buried, everything I'd crossed, was about to explode. He wasn't supposed to be home, not yet, not while I was doing this. It's strange how silence can be so loud. That Saturday morning, the house was quieter than it had been in months. No clinking dishes, no heavy boots stomping down the hallway, no sighs from the living room as sports commentary echoed from the TV. Just me and that haunting stillness. Jason, my husband, had taken a last-minute work trip out of state. He was supposed to be gone for 3 days, 3 long, uneventful days. We weren't in a good place, haven't been for over a year, to be honest. Somewhere between bills, miscarried expectations, and words left unspoken, we'd become strangers living in shared walls. He didn't touch me anymore, not with hunger, not with love. His kisses were mechanical, his eyes always elsewhere, and the worst part, I stopped craving him too, but I craved something, connection, attention. Validation, even if it came from the wrong places. It started with a comment. Just one little comment under a photo I'd posted months ago. "Didn't know you still looked this good." It said it was from Marcus. Yeah, Marcus, Jason's old friend, the one who used to come over for football nights, whose smile always lingered a second too long when he hugged me goodbye, the one I hadn't seen in nearly a year, not since Jason and he had some quiet falling out that neither of them ever talked about. I should have ignored the message. I really should have, but that day, alone in the house, hearing nothing but the hum of the fridge and the whisper of my own loneliness, I replied, just a simple "haha, thanks, long time no see." He answered immediately. And just like that, the spark I'd buried under months of cold sheets and silent dinners flickered. We chatted for hours, the kind of flirty, almost forbidden talk that makes your stomach twist in excitement and guilt at the same time. He remembered things Jason never bothered to, my favorite wine, the book I was reading last summer, the way I used to laugh when I got nervous. Marcus didn't pretend not to notice me. He noticed everything. By midnight, he sent one more message. "If you're home alone tomorrow, maybe I'll swing by." I stared at that text like it was a loaded gun, and I didn't say no. I barely slept that night. Not because I was anxious, but because something inside me was wide awake. I kept replaying his messages in my head. Every word, every emoji, every dot, pause before he sent another line. It was like I was 16 again, waiting for a secret crush to show up at my window. Only this wasn't innocent, and I wasn't 16. I was a married woman lying in bed, in my husband's T-shirt, waiting for another man to knock on my door. The next day, I cleaned the house like company was coming. Lit candles, washed my hair, put on makeup I hadn't touched in months. I told myself I was being stupid, that Marcus probably wouldn't show up, that this was just some bored fantasy between two people who wanted to feel wanted again. But at 2:17 p.m., my doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. I didn't even check the peephole. When I opened the door, there he was, Marcus, wearing that same cocky smile, that same leather jacket, the one he wore the last time he and Jason watched the game together in this very living room. He looked around as he stepped in, smirked. "Wow, still smells like vanilla and sin in here," he said. I laughed, but it felt dangerous because suddenly this wasn't just a message on a screen anymore. This was real. He was in my house, and my heart was beating so loud I was sure he could hear it. He didn't sit. He didn't make small talk. He just walked up to me and brushed a strand of hair from my cheek. His fingers lingered a little too long, and that's when it hit me. If I don't stop this now, there won't be a way back. I wish I could tell you I stopped it right then and there, that I stepped back. That I remembered the vows I made and the life I built with Jason, but instead, I stood frozen. Marcus looked at me with those eyes that weren't asking for permission. They were daring me. He leaned in slowly. And I didn't move. I didn't flinch when his lips brushed against mine. I didn't say a word when his hands moved to my waist. And I didn't stop him when the kiss deepened into something that tasted like danger and desperation. We barely made it to the couch. The same couch Jason and I cuddled on during movie nights. The same one where we carved out lazy Sunday memories. Now it held something else entirely. It wasn't just lust. It was release, a scream trapped inside my chest, finally let out in the form of tangled limbs and whispered names we weren't supposed to say. When it was over, I didn't feel satisfied. I felt hollow, like I had broken something I couldn't put back together. Marcus stood, adjusting his shirt, avoiding my eyes. For the first time since he walked in, he seemed unsure. "You okay?" he asked, as if that made it all better. I nodded, but I wasn't okay. I was splintered. He left without saying much more. No promises. No "we'll talk later." Just gone, and I sat there in silence, wrapped in a blanket of guilt, watching the front door like Jason might walk in and see the betrayal written all over my face. But he didn't. Not that day. The days that followed were strange. Marcus didn't text, didn't call, didn't even show up for the little things he usually volunteered for, helping Jason fix the garage light, grabbing beers on game night, teasing me at the barbecue. It was like he'd vanished, and maybe that was for the best. But the silence, it wasn't peaceful, it was loud, a roaring reminder of what I had done, of the line I crossed and the one I couldn't uncross if I tried. Jason, bless him, was completely oblivious. Innocent smiles, forehead kisses, weekend plans. He'd wrap his arms around me in bed, completely unaware that my heart was somewhere else, confused, conflicted, ashamed. One night, a week after it happened, he pulled me in close and whispered, "I've missed this, us. You feel distant lately." That broke me in ways Marcus never could. I wanted to tell him everything, wanted to fall at his feet and sob until I was empty. But I didn't. Instead, I lied. I said I was tired. Work had been rough. I blamed hormones and stress. He kissed my temple and held me tighter, and I cried, quietly, while he slept, because the guilt didn't just live in my chest anymore, it haunted everything. Every room Marcus had touched, every kiss Jason gave, every quiet moment where I had the chance to confess and didn't. But just as I started to convince myself it had all been a one-time thing, a terrible, isolated mistake, something happened that shattered that illusion completely. Marcus texted, "I can't stop thinking about you," and just like that, the fire I thought had burned out sparked right back to life. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity. "I can't stop thinking about you." One sentence. 8 words, and yet they unraveled the fragile thread I was holding myself together with. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream at him for pulling me back into the storm. But the truth, I'd been waiting for it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Delete, ignore, block, but I didn't. Instead, I replied, "We shouldn't be doing this." And then, "But I haven't stopped thinking about you either." That was all it took. A door reopened quietly, guiltily, desperately. He came over again 2 days later, not in the middle of the night, not by chance. We planned it. Jason had a client dinner. I said I'd be home alone, catching up on laundry. But I wasn't. I was waiting again with trembling hands, too much perfume, and a heart that didn't know whether it wanted to race or stop. When Marcus stepped through the door, I swear time paused. He didn't touch me right away. He just looked at me, like he was memorizing my face, like he was searching for something inside me. I broke first. I walked toward him and whispered, "We said this wouldn't happen again." His hands found my waist. His lips barely touched mine when he said, "But we both lied." What happened next wasn't wild. It wasn't messy or rushed. It was slower this time, more deliberate, almost intimate. Like we weren't just seeking pleasure anymore, we were trying to make something feel right in a world that had tilted sideways. When it was over, we didn't speak much, just lay there, side by side, like two people who had just crossed a river with no way back to shore. Before he left, he kissed my forehead and said something I didn't expect. "You deserve more than pretending you're happy." Then he walked out, leaving me tangled in sheets, shame, and a terrifying realization. This, whatever this was, wasn't going away. The days after that second time felt different, not just emotionally, physically too. I couldn't even look Jason in the eye without flinching. I'd flinch when he touched me, when he smiled at me, when he brought home dinner just because I'd had a long day. The guilt didn't come in waves anymore. It was constant, like a buzzing under my skin, like background noise I couldn't shut off. And yet, I kept texting Marcus. At first, it was just checking in. Did you get home safe? Then it turned into late night conversations laced with secrets and near confessions. Do you ever think about just running away from all this? He replied every day. I started noticing small things about Jason that irritated me. The way he chewed, how he never noticed when I changed my hair, how he assumed I'd handle everything at home without ever asking if I needed help. Marcus noticed those things. He noticed everything. He listened. I started comparing. Worse, I started resenting Jason for not being Marcus. And then the dreams started. I'd dream I was with Marcus in some cheap motel room with peeling wallpaper, whispering things I couldn't even admit out loud. In the dream, Jason always walked in and just stood there, silent, bleeding. I'd wake up breathless, heart pounding, and drenched in sweat. Sometimes I thought about confessing, telling Jason everything, letting it all fall apart just so I could stop pretending. But then I'd picture his face. The way he looked when he proposed, the way he held me when my mother died, the trust in his eyes every time he kissed my forehead before heading to work. And I couldn't do it. So I kept living a lie, one that was now stretching dangerously thin. It was a Thursday afternoon. Jason was supposed to be working late, and I was curled up on the couch, texting Marcus nothing too obvious, but the subtext was there, flirty, dangerous, and then I heard the front door open. I nearly dropped my phone. Jason stood in the doorway with takeout in one hand and a weird look on his face. "Surprise," he said, holding up the food. "Thought I'd come home early. Missed you." I forced a smile, one that felt like it cracked my face. As he headed to the kitchen, I quickly flipped my phone over, heart racing. I could have sworn I'd locked it. Later that night, he was unusually quiet, too quiet. He didn't ask me about my day, didn't ramble about his. He just kept glancing at me, like he was trying to read something behind my eyes. And then, the next morning, it happened. I walked into the kitchen to find Jason sitting at the table. My phone was next to him. Unlocked, open to my messages with Marcus, every single message. My heart stopped. He didn't say anything right away, just looked up at me. His eyes weren't furious, they were hollow. "What is this?" he asked, voice low, tight. I couldn't breathe, couldn't lie, couldn't even cry. I didn't mean to. It wasn't supposed to. "You didn't mean to what?" He cut in. "Sleep with him once or twice, or plan a whole escape route in case I got too boring for you." His words hit like ice water. I was lonely. I whispered, "You were always working." I felt invisible. "And he made you feel seen?" he asked. "Do you even know what you've done?" I couldn't answer because I didn't even fully understand it myself. Jason didn't yell. He didn't throw anything, didn't cry. That silence, it was worse than any explosion. He stood slowly, picked up his keys, and looked at me like he was staring at a stranger. "I need time," he said. "Don't text, don't call, just think about what you've done." And he walked out just like that. No storming, no slamming, just a quiet exit that left my entire world echoing with regret. For the first few days, I waited for his message. Hoped for it, but it never came. Instead, Marcus showed up again. Uninvited. "Hey," he said with a half smile, "I heard what happened. Thought you could use some company." He let himself in like this was his place now. I didn't stop him. Maybe I should have. Maybe I was too ashamed to be alone. Or maybe, and this is hard to admit, I didn't want to feel the weight of my own guilt without distraction. Marcus made himself at home. Worse, he acted like Jason was already out of the picture, like we were just picking up where we left off. That night, we sat on the couch. He tried to touch me. I pulled away. "Not now," I whispered. "It's too soon." He laughed, said the woman who couldn't keep her hands off me when her husband was just upstairs. That stung, his smirk, the arrogance, the reminder of what I had done, and in that moment it hit me, this wasn't love. It wasn't even lust anymore. It was convenience, ego, escape, and I had traded something real for this. Marcus didn't take rejection well. The second night he stayed over, he drank from Jason's favorite glass. He kicked his shoes off onto Jason's rug. He flipped through our wedding album like it was some old scrapbook with no weight. "You ever gonna take these pictures down?" he said, holding up a shot of me and Jason laughing in a field during our engagement shoot. "Seems disrespectful to me." I snatched it from his hands. "Don't touch that." He smirked, leaned back and said, "So what am I, the rebound, or are you planning to make this real?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. I hadn't even processed the fallout of Jason walking out, let alone what Marcus was trying to turn this into. And then it happened. Jason came back. 3 days after he left, I heard the key turn in the front door. Marcus was in the kitchen, shirtless, casually making coffee like he lived there. Jason froze in the doorway. Our eyes met. He didn't say a word, just looked past me, straight at Marcus, who stood there holding Jason's favorite mug. It felt like time cracked open. Jason put the key back on the counter, then quietly turned and walked back out. No shouting, no drama, just heartbreak in motion. I followed him out barefoot, crying, calling his name. "Jason, please, wait. I didn't mean for this. I wasn't thinking." He stopped at the sidewalk, turned to face me. "You made your choice," he said, "and now I've made mine." And just like that, he was gone again. But this time, it felt like he wouldn't be coming back. After Jason walked away that second time, something in me broke. Not from guilt that had been creeping in since the beginning, but from finality. From realizing I had burned something I could never rebuild. Marcus tried to act like nothing happened. He was bound to find out eventually. He said casually, "Now you don't have to lie anymore." Lie. The man I married, who built this life with me, just watched another man wearing his slippers, drinking from his cup, and walking around his home like a conqueror. And I was the traitor who let it happen. I told Marcus to leave. He thought I was joking at first, then angry, then finally serious. "This ain't my mess," he said. "You let me in, you called me." I didn't argue, I didn't scream. I just stared at the front door until he walked through it. I locked it behind him and slid down to the floor, pressing my back against the wood like it could hold me together. The next few days were a blur of missed calls, unanswered texts, and nights spent lying on the couch staring at the ceiling. Jason didn't block me, but he didn't reply either, and maybe that hurt more. He was always the one who talked through things calmly, even in anger, but now his silence was like a sentence passed without trial. I checked his location, once an old habit I forgot to turn off, and saw he'd checked into a hotel just across town. Close, but emotionally 1,000 miles away. A week passed, then 2. Jason never came back. I didn't expect a grand confrontation or screaming match that wasn't his style, but I thought maybe he'd sit across from me one last time, maybe ask why, maybe give me a chance to explain the chaos inside me, the loneliness, the ego, the mistake. But the only thing I got was a neatly folded envelope slipped under the door. No knock, no voice, just a man finally done. Inside was a letter, not angry, not dramatic, just final. You are my home. I trusted you with all of me. I never imagined I'd have to question if I was enough. But now I know I wasn't, at least not for you. I hope you find whatever it was you were looking for. I'm done looking for answers in people who hide truths behind their smiles. Goodbye. That was it. No return address, no threats, just silence. And that silence has followed me every day since. I deleted Marcus's number, not out of some moral high ground, but because looking at it made me feel sick. Not because of him, but because of me. What I allowed, what I justified. Jason was everything steady and real, and I traded that for a moment of escape, for a flicker of something reckless that felt like freedom, but was really a chain in disguise. Now I live alone, same house, same bed, but it's colder now. The walls feel like strangers, and every time I hear footsteps in the hallway, I hope it's him, but it never is. Maybe I deserve that. I sat in the living room that night, long after Marcus left. The house felt colder, bigger, emptier, like it was mourning what I'd done before I could even process it myself. My phone buzzed once. Jason, landed, be home in 2 hours, can't wait to see you. And just like that, reality hit me like a truck. I raced upstairs, changed the sheets, took a long hot shower, scrubbed myself until my skin turned red, as if I could wash away the guilt, as if hot water could erase betrayal, but it clung to me. Not like shame, no. Shame would have been easier. This was heavier, deeper, a knowing. Jason walked through the door around midnight, suitcase in hand, wearing that same tired smile he always wore after traveling. I hugged him harder than I should have, and he pulled back, surprised. You okay? He asked, brushing my hair out of my face. Yeah, I lied, just missed you. He didn't notice the shift, or maybe he did and chose not to say anything. But over the next few weeks, something between us quietly died. He didn't accuse, I didn't confess, but our silences became longer, colder, our routines sharper. We moved through the house like ghosts, and then, one day, he just left, no note, no yelling, just his clothes gone. His scent faded, and a void. I haven't heard from Marcus since. I never reached out, not because I didn't think about it, but because I knew I'd only be chasing the same hollow feeling. It wasn't love. It was something else, a moment, a madness. Now I sit in a house I once called home, listening to echoes of laughter that no longer live here. Do I regret it? Every day. But if you're waiting for the kind of closure that comes with redemption, this isn't that kind of story. This is the kind where everyone loses, where no one walks away clean, and where silence is the only thing left that's honest.